All right. Well, welcome everybody. Definitely a packed house. Is there any other room up there? There might be a couple of seats up there. Let's squeeze in here. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Mario Tapia, and how many people have been to a Mobile Monday in the past? Okay, cool. How many have been to a Mobile Monday outside of New York City? All right, so I've been curating these meetups since '99, and almost 17 years now. I live in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and about a year ago started to come out to New York to help out the local team that was doing these events to keep them going. So basically kind of re-kicking off the Mobile Monday community here in New York. I've been curating Silicon Valley for almost the last 10 years. We're about 20,000 developers and entrepreneurs in that community. And also, I started Los Angeles in 2006. So I've been trying to keep that community also going. So definitely, if you guys are interested in, how many people are doing a startup, or in the startup right now? Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So what I'd like to do here in New York is do demo days and stuff like that. So, and also, you're here tonight, and this is kind of our general meeting. And so this is essentially a panel discussion, talk about the industry. About a couple of weeks ago, how many folks came over 2 weeks ago? Yeah, so we did kind of have a technical session, we throw some code up on the wall, and then we also had startup demos after that. So hopefully we'll come back in the fall and do one of those. Tonight's agenda, I'm just going to go through a welcome, kind of display Mobile Monday a little bit, an overview, and then we'll have a keynote from Tactica, and then we'll do some bit more networking, and then we'll also jump into a panel after the keynote. So right now I'm heading up Silicon Valley, Silicon Beach, and also Silicon Alley. We're part of a larger community, which is about 140 folks. Cities worldwide, from Tel Aviv to Tokyo, Paris, Berlin. There's actually still a lot of activity in the Mobile Monday community. And if you know some of you guys who signed up, who registered on Eventbrite? How many people found us on Eventbrite? Cool, so I have some questions there for you. How many people use Splash.that? How many people use Meetup? Wow, I want to see a lot of folks on the comments on Meetup, cool. I can't do a lot of questions on Meetup, but this is kind of what the demographic looks like for most of the community. So how many people write code? People here, developers. Who's product and marketing? Business development people. Yeah, there's the partiers. I could tell there's no more alcohol. How many people? Okay, the unicorns, designers. There's like 2 or 3 boys. Yeah, awesome. Any media folks? Media? Awesome. Yeah, cool. Venture, VC. It's a very Silicon Valley question. Cool. Well, awesome. Welcome everybody. So this is your community, folks. So I kind of led on to like what we've done in the past. So this is our typical, this is our topic, monthly topic meetup. We'll discuss some issue. It's paid acquisition, best practices. We have our labs, and we also do some dinners. So folks, if you're interested about the dinners, it's really, if you're a founder, director at a large Fortune 500, we kind of do these roundtable dinners to discuss the industry. And most of the stuff is big company sponsors us, so it's free to attend. And definitely, thanks to Tactica and also Flurry and Yahoo to host us here. So it's a where to find us. Meetup. So I'll always post. I'll definitely want to cross-promote across Eventbrite. But if you're signed up to Meetup, then I can just kind of ping you. You get my notifications. I'll also send you, what's good about us is that, our email list, that you're now part of 30,000 people. And so we get a lot of either free tickets, hugely discounted tickets to a lot of the conferences that are going on in those coasts. So I'll send out some notifications of like, hey, here's an event coming up, and here's some discounted tickets. We also record these, so right now I have about 70 plus events between Los Angeles, Silicon Valley, and here recorded. So if anybody's interested, you can find out more. So there's two areas that we've kind of been focused on in the last couple of years, and that's how many people here are in the app economy. So it's mobile advertising, acquisition, building an app, stuff like that, right? How many people here are in hardware IoT? Right? So yeah, that's kind of like the next wave that's up and coming in our industry. So IoT is kind of like another part of the area that we focus. We focus on connected car, connected home, and health, and also wearables, and a lot of other stuff that's going on in the hardware space. So that's kind of where to find us. I'll also please give a round of applause to the folks at Tactica and Flurry. And then next we have our keynote, Dalia from Tactica, and she's also bi-coastal. I always get crossing the paths and playing with her. So she has some insights on kind of what's happening in the ecosystem from the app ecosystem and acquisition point of view. I'd like to call it Dalia.
Hi everyone, I'm Galia. I'm the CEO of Tactica. I'm in the States and cats are popular, so I thought I'd start with a little cute kitten to get us in the vibe. So I moved to the US a year ago to join the Tactica US team. We just had an event last year, and this was finally all of us from all points in the US that we were together. As we know, then what we're seeing here in the States, there's a lot of developments, and especially here in New York. So that was the idea of why I'm located here. But as Mario said, I'm bi-coastal, and this is a new word that I learned here in the States. I think it's amazing how they managed to grant everything, and they're storms and bi-coastal and so yeah, so it's been really interesting. I've been here for a year here in New York, which really is a childhood dream of mine. So I get to be in the heart of the industry and to be in New York. Every morning I have my coffee, and this is my view from my window. Still, a year later, oh my God, New York City. But really being here and being in the hub, I used to fly here at least once a month, but it's different when you live here, and being savvy, a millennial, if you want to say, I really went from 0 to 100 with using my phone. I buy myself a present at least once a month, once a week from Amazon. I use OpenTable to discover restaurants, to book restaurants. I came back from Israel about a month ago. I forgot my phone didn't work, and I got into a taxi and I forgot to pay the guy. So really quickly we get used to the phone, and it's true that the phones made us lazy, but not necessarily in the negative sense of the word. I think it's incredible that we have this device that just knows us so well and knows us before we even know what we want. Sometimes I go into the Google Maps and it knows where I want to go. It's a little freaky, but I can type a little less. So I think that it's really, really amazing that we have this opportunity to be a little lazier but get a lot more. And I think that it's even more exciting for us as marketers. So if we look back at all the developments that we've had in advertising, all our marketer really wants is to know exactly what's going on, to know exactly what they're paying for, and to know exactly what's happening with the user a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. And so finally, all the changes that we've seen in the advertising space, the mobile's really, really allowing that to happen. And I think that, we're having now a session here in New York about growth, which is really the traditional advertising, the more brick and mortar, the agencies that we know. So to see the big shift happening here in New York, it's really exciting. And I don't want to say the year of mobile because I can't hear that anymore. Mobile's here, there's stats, 90% of Americans have a phone, and the time that we spend on our device. So the year of mobile is here, and I think that it happened last year thanks to the tracking system and really kind of connecting the analytics and understanding what's happening together with the advertising. But I think that New York being the hub and being the more traditional ad space, to see that New York is getting more into mobile first, and really classic agencies are starting to learn about it. I think that this is a huge step, and so your mobile happened, and mobile is here, and I think that we're speaking here. I was thinking what I can talk to with all you guys that marketing savvy and probably know more than I do. And I was thinking maybe the tracking, maybe technology, maybe around data, and then saw the Silicon Valley episode, which really was an honor for the mobile industry, and Pied Piper finally went live and had a major fail, and poor Richard, the CEO there, didn't know what to do. And for us in San Francisco, or the mobile-first companies, we know that just CPI is dead. Like nobody cares about installs anymore, but we're way beyond that. We're able to really understand what the engagement is that we're expecting from our users, and really knowing how to buy that right user. So what I'd like to talk about today is talking about the importance of knowing what your KPIs are, and also knowing how to get them. And I think that more than ever, mobile is, I knew cats would work. So mobile is really about mastering certain elements in the flow. So this ecosystem is built up of so many different, so many pieces of the puzzles that make it up. So we have Jim here from AppsFlyer, and really helped change the ecosystem last year with the developments in the post-install tracking, and you have all sorts of analytics and push notifications and the video, and really each piece of that puzzle is a world of its own. And so I think that right now in mobile we see that companies are trying to kind of be the jack of all trades. What happens is they're okay in all sorts of different elements, and all sorts of those pieces of the puzzle, and they don't make it. You should choose one area that you're the best at and really master it. And then you're also known in the industry and with your partners as the master of that thing. And if we know if we understand within the ecosystem who's mastering what, we can really build a web and work together to be able to really make the most out of the opportunity that we got with getting so much information and so much data. And really all we want is to be on a unicorn, counting our money and the success of our marketing campaign, like Bachman. We see this a lot in Toptica. We made a lot of changes in the company. If I look in the last 3 years, the development of Toptica, we shifted our focus, and we're keeping even more laser focused towards building the right technology for these brands and for these marketers, to be able to get connected to their right users and to be able to reach their KPIs. And so at Toptica, we mastered the art of using data to buy media, to reach the users, to reach those KPIs. And what happens is that we have a lot of partners that we work with really closely. So sometimes you can people ask me, but they're your competitors. Why are you working with them? And I think that especially in this space, there isn't a competitor. So Google is my competitor. I wish, but no, Google is my competitor, Facebook is my competitor, but on the other hand, we work together, and as soon as we work together towards the same goal, and the goal in this space is the brands, is the users, making sure that the users are being targeted with the right ad. We don't have patience for untargeted ads. We don't have patience for annoying messages that don't fit us. And right now, as marketers, we have that information. So if we know how to listen to it, and we know how to filter it correctly, we can really be in synergy with our users and really offer them something that they're looking for. So we had actually one of the one of the retail companies in San Francisco. I can't mention the name, but they're a really popular beauty app. And so they're actually one of the pioneers in m-commerce. And they really managed to create a sticky app that their users, they had an added value in using the app, and they managed to marry the offline and online with the use of beacons. And about a year ago, they were ready to start paying to get more users. And so we took the whole process of getting their campaign in place and understanding what they want. It took us about, I would say about a month. We had a lot of meetings, also together with their product, also together with the marketing team, and also together with the different teams from the more branding that are in charge of the TV ads, the guys doing the beacons, to really understand what the user behavior that they're seeing now, and what us as Tactica, what we should focus on, what's important for us to make sure that we're paying attention to. And so there was three main things that they were interested in. That was increasing registrations, lowering the cost of each installs, and also lowering the cost per registration. And when we got started, we told them, all that doesn't matter. Like, at the end, you want the users to pay. Like, you're looking for how much each user, how much they're spending in your app. And they're like, no, first, we want scale. Then we said, okay, just make sure that you're sending us the post-install. You look at the scale, you'll be happy about that. We've got your back on the return on investment side. And then within a month, we managed to reach 130% return on ad spend. A month later, we reached 200, and then last month, we're at about 400. I'm assuming that with time, it'll kind of shoot us in the foot, because we managed to increase their expectations so high, and we can't reach 1,000% return on an ad spend. But it definitely shows that the importance of working together, and the importance of looking at the long-term goal. Having a bunch of installs, anybody can do that. So really trying to understand what the KPI is, and mastering the different elements that lead you to get to there. And being in New York, obviously, there's always the question whether to work fully managed or self-serve. Why? Because if we look at the desktop space, the self-serve, that's what savvy marketers had. They just wanted the technology and they can do it themselves. And somehow, maybe logically, it could make sense that the fee, you pay less fees, the data stays in-house, you're in more control, you're not sharing information with external companies. Surprise, surprise, I think you're wrong. And I think that really in the mobile space, more than ever, it's collaboration. Of course, there isn't any company that can take away your data or your connection to your user. And so having the right communication with the partners that you're working with, it's critical, and having full transparency is critical. It should be as if it was in-house. But once you're working on a self-serve, you lose a lot of the capabilities of a technology. Like, it doesn't matter what. You'll know how to turn on your TV the fastest. You'll know for example, you have your toaster, you know the exact amount of time to have it just right. If someone as a guest came and did a toast, maybe they burn it the first time. Second time around, maybe they'll get it. And so if you think about it from the budget standpoint, and from all the different capabilities, not knowing those little kind of, forgot the word, but you know what I mean, to here to there, then you're missing out a lot of the capabilities that the technologies in the mobile space are able to offer. So I think it's really, really important to make sure that you're making the most out of this space. And it's not that you don't want to wait too long, because it's happening now and it's evolving really quickly. So just some points around managed versus self-serve. So first of all, the mastery. So you have a team in-house of the managers that they do this day in, day out, and they do this with hundreds of other campaigns as well. So having that visibility, having that benchmark can help you set the industry standards. Like we are working with Rideshare app. We started working with them about 2 years ago, and their KPI, their goal was to work on a $20 cost per first ride. And after about a week, we saw that they were overpaying. So after some optimization and after we were sure, we came to them and we told them, listen, 12 should be your benchmark. And so we dropped their KPI from 20 to 12. Think how much money they saved across the board. We're not the only partners that they work with. And so if you're keeping everything in-house, you don't have someone to come and tell you, hey, this creative's working, it's working better. We see that this user audience is responding better. We see that between 12 to 2, your users are responding more. And so all that granular information of the vast amount of data that's out there, it's really important to have someone there that knows how to dice it up and do something with it. So it goes as well to customization of technologies. And it goes to as well in terms of the different innovation. If you look at Facebook, for example, partners that are working with different FMPs or people that are working by themselves on Facebook know that last year alone they had 50 updates to their API. So someone that's in-house, they need to be focused on their product and they need to be focused on their users. They can't keep up with Facebook. And so that's why there's companies that they're specialized in helping you reach that. So just a little bit of insights about Taptica. So we have a global foothold, Israel, which is our headquarters, and that's where the magic happened. And then of course the US, San Francisco and New York, and China and Korea. And just in a nutshell, in terms of what we're doing, surprise, surprise, we're managed. But we're a fully managed mobile advertising platform. Our sole purpose of being here is to help brands and to help marketers and to help agencies get the right users, get the engaged users, work on the right KPIs at scale. So if there's 3 things that I can leave you with today, first of all, choose the right partners, okay? But don't forget, it's not a marriage. If someone doesn't work out, you move to the next one. It's also not monogamy. You need to try on different ones. You know, we have the agencies and they tell us, listen, someone's outperforming you. I know that it's not, but for the slight chance that they are, I'll try a little harder. So definitely choose the right partners. Innovation, there's a lot of new stuff out there. There's a lot of new technologies, new ad types. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You will. But at the end, if you try a few different things, something will work. So you lose a 5K there, you lose 5K there. Once you hit the jackpot, you really hit the jackpot. And in terms of the KPIs, really know what you want, okay? So of course, there's an element of price. But think, what are you expecting from your users the first week, second week, first month, after a year? What are you looking for? And make sure that you're communicating this with your partners, that they're working on your short-term and long-term plan. Thank you very much.
And just one more public service announcement from Chris. Chris is from Florida. Go ahead.
How's it going, guys? Just wanted to welcome you all to the Tumblr space and pulling double duty tonight. I lead the developer relations and growth team for Flurry Analytics. How many of you guys have heard of Flurry? Awesome. So we're going to continue to partner with Mario going forward, as well as have other events in the space in the next 3 to 6 months. So hopefully find us on meetup.com. We have a meetup series called the Pizza Beer Mobile that we'd love to see you at. And for those of you that are not aware of Flurry Analytics, we are a mobile analytics solution that's in over 800,000 applications worldwide. We're completely free at any scale. And find me after the panel if you'd like to learn more. Thanks for coming out.
And I'd like to call up the panel now. Guys, come on down.
Preston.
Great. All right. Cool. All right. So, well, let's get started, everyone, and we can have we'll start with Melina and have her introduce yourself and who you are and where you work and actually what you do at Fetch.
All right, so my name is Melina X. I'm the managing director for Fetch at the East Coast. Fetch is part of Dentsu Aegis Network. We are a global mobile marketing agency, and we work with clients that are in the mobile-first business, mostly with very big apps, utility apps. You will know all of them that you use every day, pretty much across all industries. And we opened in New York last year, and I relocated here in January, so I'm still fairly new, in contrast to you.
And everyone's so tanned. Why is everyone's got tans up here? Pasty, yellow. It's 60 degrees in San Francisco, by the way.
It's the East Coast.
It's so cold. Go ahead.
My name is Rachel Pasqua. I lead the Connected Life practice at NYC Global. We're a global media organization. We're one of the operating companies of Group M, WPP, and Connected Life. The title of my group is intentionally nebulous because we, ironically, even though this is Mobile Monday, we're trying to use the word mobile less and try and get our customers to think more in the expanded idea of human mobility. So yes, mobile smartphones and tablets, but also people in motion across connected modes and
But it's
nodes.
like the internet has become mobile.
Yeah, but then when you say the word mobile, people think smartphones, or I would ask you things like, is the tablet a mobile device, which is just kind of silly because people are mobile and things aren't. And so wearables, biometrics, connected car and home, and yes, like smartphones and all that stuff.
So my name is Jude O'Connor. I'm Vice President of Brand and Agency Advertising for Opera MediaWorks. We're a mobile-first, mobile-only company. Have been that way for 20 plus years. We're not a desktop platform that's pivoting and changing due to the times where 70+% of all inventory is now mobile. So we say mobile more often, not less often. What I do in my role is any performance-based advertising, whether it be app install or more traditional like lead generation, direct response, credit card application type stuff that we do with agency partners. It runs through me and my team to make sure we understand the KPIs, we understand the user flow, we understand the attribution solutions you're working with, so that we can recommend the best inventory and the best units, rates, and everything you need to hit your KPIs.
I'm Jim Steinberg. I'm the New York lead for AppsFlyer, and we are globally and in the US the #1 firm providing mobile attribution data. What that is an unbiased stream of data that empowers everyone on this panel to better measure, analyze, and optimize the campaigns that we hope will lead to the success of everyone in this room. We are integrated with 1,900 different firms, the ones on this panel among them. And what we do is essentially we take an ad that appears in Facebook and take the granular data from that campaign, track it to the install of an app, and then link and attribute the subsequent in-app events, whether or not that's registration, purchase, whatever that might be, back to the original install so you can tell whether or not the value of that ad proved itself out. So given the gap that we see, that Mary Meeker's talked about in terms of the monetization gap, with 28% of US Americans spending time on their mobile device, but only a fraction of that going into advertising right now. We hope that we will provide the data to the very talented people in this room and outside that will allow that gap to be closed.
I'm Galia. Hello again. So just in short, I'm the COO of Taptica US. And so Taptica, we're at the heart of who we are. We're a DMP. We use the data to be smarter buyers, and so we help brands and agencies and primarily mobile-first companies reach their right users at scale using cross-channel publishers, so including mobile RTB, direct traffic, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest now, Instagram. So really where your users are, we'll be able to pinpoint them using our DMP and bring them to you.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. So let's get to it. All right. Ad spend this year. eMarketer reports global mobile ad spending will reach $101 billion. Are you kidding? It's a billion. Where's this money going? Where's it coming from? I don't see it. Is it coming to you? Are you seeing it? So I'm just curious to see, like, where's this $1 billion coming from and where's it being spent? So, and you guys, this is an open question to everyone. So, someone start. Rachel can start.
Where's it being, you asked like 10 questions in that question.
The billion,
No,
the 100 million. It's like, where's it being spent?
Where is it being spent? Oh, definitely a lot in video, less in programmatic, that, as far as I can see, although programmatic's a bucket for so many other things, but in video, and still, this irks me, but a lot of just static display media. Anyone else?
A lot on Facebook, a lot in Google search.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, our mobile devices are the most important device in our life right now, right? Like, it never leaves our side. We feel lost without it. Like, every single person in this room takes it to the bathroom with you, go mind, you go live, you know? So it's like, if you really want to reach a consumer in their everyday life, where they go, when they go, you know what they do, know where they go, use that long data to kind of pivot and target them where they're going and use that historical data to kind of build a profile of who that user is. There's really no stronger and more powerful way to reach them than mobile at this point in time, but I really think the number one thing holding back, ad spending from following that is just attribution across mobile. I mean, like, everyone knows there's an attribution problem across mobile. Folks like AppsFlyer have done a lot to kind of change that, and allow us to measure in-app events and things of that nature. But across, say, for mobile web, for example, which still makes up 20, or so percent of the industry, legacy desktop technologies are still measuring attribution there. So you still got things like DCM that are 100% dependent on cookies to, trying to register mobile attribution, and there's just no cookies in most mobile environments. So people will spend advertising dollars in mobile, and they'll get just enough attribution to think that it's working and registering, but just little enough to think that it sucks and it's not working. So the dollars actually kind of flow away, and certain types of budgets get siloed still to desktop, where people think that, the user can and is more likely to convert. But I think it's less about that, just more about the technology that we have powering these campaigns these days doesn't allow you to fully attribute your dollars one-to-one from mobile the way it does with desktop.
I think Melina, do you have?
Yeah, the actually more interesting question I would find is to ask the people who actually spend this some $101 billion how many of those are spent in the right way, and how many of those are actually, like Galia presented earlier, in an ROI positive way. I would claim it's not enough.
Also, I'm curious, and that's one of a million different statistics floating around out there, but I'd be interested if they were including Facebook in that, because Facebook, like a lot of platforms, and I think a lot of money that's being spent and thought of as being spent on digital, and equating digital into desktop actually ends up on mobile behind the scenes. So whoever contributed to that statistic was probably asked, well, what are you spending on mobile, what are you spending on desktop? And they probably put social spending in a separate bucket, not thinking, oh, well, 90% of that probably shows up on mobile. And then they're just talking about what they're buying with, I don't know, XAD and the mobile specific ad networks and not thinking, well, if I go and I do a buy with AOL or ESPN or any number of other publishers, everything's just going to be tagged as desktop, but behind the scenes, unless I specifically ask that publisher to break out placements and tell me where everything goes, probably 50 or 60% of that is shown up on mobile. So I think it's very fractured. The statistics are also misleading because who knows what they're defining as mobile.
Oh, yeah, I love it. And you're not the first person to say this, but the same question I think we brought up in Los Angeles, in Silicon Valley, Silicon Beach, and yeah, someone did mention that attribution spend actually gets put on mobile, but a lot of it actually is desktop.
I think as well that what we're seeing is a lot of brands that maybe last year weren't necessarily playing in the mobile space and they were waiting to see what's happening. I mean, we're seeing a big shift, and we're seeing a very incremental growth in this year that a lot of more traditional classic brands are getting into mobile. And I think that actually, this is a nice team here because everyone from their angle is working on educating these brands and making them smarter about spending. And like you're saying, maybe they bucket it somewhere else, or they have a bucket of programmatic because they want to, but at the end, we know how to take it towards mobile and make it more ROI positive. But definitely the brands had a big impact on this.
Interesting that June had mentioned mobile web. It is, I guess probably emerging markets, do any of you also see mobile web? How big is that?
That's still significant. Like if you look at, I forget to put out the statistics, I don't know if this Comscore or somebody, but the top, I think, 100 mobile web properties are growing faster than the top 100 mobile app properties. This was before Pokemon Go, so I may not be proud of that statistic anymore, but I think I don't think it's a zero-sum game, and we still do plenty of buying with mobile web.
What we're really seeing is a shift toward the ability to focus on ROI. That's what it's all about. And the data is very clearly there now to move well past the acquisition KPI, which in the case of, say, Facebook, in order to expand acquisition at this point, they have to continue to build out the web. They've got it all. So it's not acquisition anymore, it's retention and monetizing that base of customers that you're able to retain. So the ability to work with the targeting capability that both these ad networks bring in order to get your target, in order to understand your target customer, be able to model them, be able to go out and get more of them, be able to effectively communicate with them. Because we're also seeing a whole range of new tactics being brought to bear, like push notification and marketing automation, that are still very much in progress in terms of getting to know the consumer, not violating the trust that comes with being able to give push notification. But those different marketing tactics very much complement and continue to help monetize. And if you look at some of the stats around who can be monetized, we often look at gaming, for instance. Gaming is roughly 20% of all of the mobile app out there. Only less than 4% of gaming customers actually monetize. But those who monetize are generally whales, spending anywhere in excess of $500 within a game. Everybody playing Pokemon Go here?
And it's about what percentage of are actually paying game users that buy the in-app purchases? Is it like 5%?
No, way lower, under 4%. And the whales, they spend $1,000 plus or even less. And what we find there is that the monetization occurs almost in a linear fashion because they just go deeper and deeper into the game. It's a real tribute to the engagement.
That's where all those millions are going. A big chunk of them, I guess, the game installs. The Kings and the EAs and the Game Lofts of the world. Probably the biggest spenders.
And so basically, if we look at the budget for 2016, is it, and for some of your clients, is it the acquisition? Is that where most of the money is being spent? Acquisition, downloads?
Yeah, so we're seeing as well, so first of all, to answer your question, it's interesting because last year Toptica, about 60% of the overall spend was gaming, and this year they represent about 50%, and they haven't gone down. But I think that, if we talk about that, so a lot of the mobile first companies that were in San Francisco, they're spending now a lot of money in re-engaging and bringing those users back. And, like Jim says here, working on, working a lot on re-engaging them, on the retention, on taking that data and, building lookalike models on the different channels. So there's definitely now taking all the spend that they've done last year or earlier this year and seeing how they can maximize that.
Yeah, right now the Trailblazers are still the king clients. It's the kings, the machines, those are supercells. And like right behind them are the mobile app first companies. They're the companies that the app is their entire business. So the Ubers, the Foursquares, and things of that nature. The larger brands are always slower to adopt. And they're just starting to really get into it. Like she said, we're seeing huge year-over-year growth from like major brands, while still seeing growth at the gaming level and then the app first level.
Yeah, and just wanted to add to that exactly. It really depends on how long the clients have been active in that field. I mean, some have the sophistication level of they can do the self-serve and do it blind, most probably.
Machines are the exception to everything.
And they are very much, they can't, or they feel like they can't spend what they would like to spend in acquiring new users, so they go much more in terms of retention, re-engagement, and so on.
I want to talk about social, and we mentioned Facebook. And I think, also we mentioned sophistication. And so what I observed in the industry has been the less sophisticated I am, if I'm just a new startup, I tend to put all of my acquisition advertising budget into a Facebook or social media. And is that true? Is that what you've seen? And then as the company grows and progresses, or maybe the acquisition manager matures and gets experience, then they tend to look at out and it's channels that are beyond social media. And I don't know. What have you?
I don't know. I mean, all of our clients are pretty darn sophisticated because big global agencies and brands. And they're all still on Facebook. I mean, Facebook, I don't want to say it's a box you can check, but it's very, very efficient medium for app downloads. Both from
cheap, right?
And cheap, but both from a paid sense and also from an organic sense. Clients that have apps that enable you to share content out to Facebook, we see a lot of that resulting in organic installs. So Facebook's really fertile ground for app installs. I mean, if you're a small mom and pop developer, I mean, it's going to be the easiest entry point
it's like
for you.
$3 for an install iOS target, and that's
minimum budget,
and that's
It's affordable, one-stop shopping. It's efficient.
Yeah.
There's no real learning curve to figuring out how to use it. And plus, if you're a small developer, if you're a small mom and pop developer, you're just starting out your startup, you don't really understand the whole ecosystem. You don't know, what to go to them, and you won't really understand the value proposition inherent in those other partners. So it makes sense.
How many people here actually are acquisition managers using Facebook for their downloads? Okay. And is that your only channel that you're using? No? What are the other channels?
Was it your first?
Probably Facebook, I would say.
How about Twitter? Are you guys using Twitter for that?
Twitter's pretty heavy.
Okay.
Twitter and Pinterest. Actually,
Interesting. Any other ones that beyond Facebook and Twitter? What would be others?
Tumblr even.
Tumblr?
I mean,
Okay. And then
Well-
Pinterest gets that together.
It's still in beta, so I don't know if anybody will be using it, but I think it would be really interesting to see how efficient the paid app store, the paid iTunes placements are. Anyone? No?
I think Facebook, it's in, there's two tiers. So you have the mom pop shops or people that are starting, and it's a good way to learn about your users. So if 5 years ago, I would recommend a new company to start on AdSense. Now I'd recommend for them to start on Facebook to get some data, to understand a bit who's responding a little bit on the creative. But if you look at the more advanced brands and the ones that have a bit larger budgets and tighter KPIs. Facebook is a very competitive field, and I wouldn't say it's cheaper. It's cheaper maybe on a smaller scale that you're able to get something back for your 2,000. But if you're looking at the large scale, and for example, if I look at Melina and the type of budgets that she's running, it's much more competitive on Facebook, and it's much more expensive on Facebook. But it depends what you're looking for. So it's really important to have an all-around mix. You can't focus just on Facebook or just on Twitter or just on the mobile RTB. You need to be where your users are, and they're everywhere. They have a different they're in a different mode. On Facebook it's more the searching, and on Foursquare it's more discovery. So you need to make sure that you're hitting your user up in the right time with the right message, and that's where it gets complex.
Absolutely. Sorry. Didn't want to interrupt. I think, social is so much more than Facebook also, right? And that so much depends on the location. Which country are you in? Here in the US, Snapchat is now so big. In Germany, where I'm from, it's getting bigger, but it's definitely not way less smaller, not as big as over here. Or somebody over there mentioned Twitter earlier. Twitter can be brilliant if it's the right kind of app, because not all the audiences that you want to reach are on Twitter. Whereas there is kind of where Facebook comes in as for the smaller budgets as an early learning tool, like Alia just said, to just test it out and get to know your audience.
Yeah, in fact, we did a study for the Barcelona World Congress of 3.5 billion app install ads that led to non-organic app installs. And we rated the different networks for not just scale, but also their ability to retain users post-install. And we found in many cases that, say, a Twitter, for instance, was able to provide app installs in specific geographies on specific devices much better than Facebook. In a similar way, when you use our dashboard, you can see head-to-head comparisons of ROI. Both Taptica and Media OperaWorks provide costs back to us, and we automate and facilitate that entire process, which allows you to do a head-to-head comparison of the different campaigns that are running. And in many cases, there's an ability to see that these guys are doing a better job or potentially optimize their campaigns in order to really achieve the results that they're capable of.
This is absolutely in line with what Gania said in the presentation earlier. So it's not, what did you say, CPI is dead? Or what was the claim? I love that because it's so true, there are still, especially the more traditional brands that haven't yet entered mobile or the mobile sophisticated space as much, and they're slowly pushing in there. They still come to us and they're like, so what's the cheapest CPI you can get? And we're like, who cares? It's actually not about that.
And it's
probably the ROI.
And it's probably the sophistication of the team and experience, I guess, as they get used to mobile.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just not how cheap can you negotiate the vendor down, or how cheap can you make Facebook overall that number. It's more the ROI number, and that's. Yeah.
In the West Coast now, in the Silicon Valley, you'll hear brands talking about layered CPI, and they let you choose what the CPI is, and so they give you a KPI, and you have all the different channels, and you choose according to where the stats are. And I really feel that Twitter is a partner of us, but also just in case if we talked about before about trying out, I'm sure that a lot of people got burnt on Twitter. It's a gold mine there. There's a lot of opportunity there, especially for e-commerce. There's the level of engagement there is very high. So if you gave up on Twitter, give it a chance.
I have to also.
Well, I was going to say, it really all comes down to eCPM, right? So when you're buying something on a CPI, there's obviously no dollar value attached to the impression level. So it's all about your conversion rates and how well is that backing out for the vendor, thus the publisher. Is the publisher making good return on having their ad live on their publishing site? And we have numerous case studies where a brand or an agency comes and is trying to drive that CPI really low. It leads to lower conversion rates, which leads to lower eCPMs, leads to lower quality of inventory and users you're reaching. We have, numerous case studies and instances where just raising that CPI 25% improves the conversion rate, which, really improves the eCPM. You hit a higher level of inventory, you hit a more qualified, higher level of user, and your return on investment, increases 2x, simply by paying a little bit more for that user upfront.
It's really, you get what you pay for.
Literally.
Like my 10-cent Tapjoy acquisitions, that's not gonna get me anywhere?
And I just add to some perspective, the one trend that we see really emerging for the next 12 months is multi-touch attribution. So Facebook, Google, and Twitter play by their own rules. They're going to tell you what you're going to pay for. But the reality is that we've been on a last click attribution model forever. But multi-touch attribution is really all about that customer's journey to that last click. And in many cases, the work of these networks is much more valuable than you might think based on the bill that you're getting from Facebook. So the degree to which a last click came from one of these guys, as opposed to Facebook, who were taking credit for a 28-day period, you need to know that, and our attribution data clearly will be able to give you that. And I think the value that you provide will be much more clearly highlighted.
Yeah, that's going to be a game changer, because ultimately, everyone's still working off that last touch attribution. So, a retargeting partner or a search partner is always going to kind of have a leg up in that game, because all they got to do is last touch you when you're physically searching something. You've already visited the site because a network like Taptica sent you to the website. You researched it. You just weren't ready to make a purchase or install that day. You leave that day, the retargeting partner comes back, follows you around with an ad because they know you've been there already, and then they steal that last touch when you go back a day, 24 hours later to install. But ultimately, who really played a higher, role in that acquisition? Was it the prospecting, network that found you, brought you to the site, got you to explore, or was it the retargeting partner that had the leg up and just followed you around after you already did the hard part from another network?
Let's talk about ad formats. And what are your, I call them beyond the banner type of ad units, because they're not rectangular. Or sometimes they're ads, but they're like, is that an ad? Did I just get an ad? Is that an ad? Or maybe not. I'm not sure what that is, which is kind of the sneakier ones. But what's the latest? What are the new ad formats that you're using?
The sneaky ones are called native, most probably.
Okay, so I'll go to you back later, and you can explain what native means.
Right.
Do they have feathers in their hair, or is
No.
it okay, all right.
Well, not at all. Native is when it looks like it's properly integrated in the experience. So you can't tell from first look that it is an ad. So that's kind of, in the end, I guess we'll get there a little bit later, most probably in our discussion, but in the end it's all about making the experience as pleasant as possible and as relevant as possible so that the consumer, the user, doesn't feel disturbed. And
Imagine that. Non-annoying ads.
Exactly, but that's the aim, right? So I guess that is the first step in that direction. But talking about ad formats, I'm delighted to see that there are still more and more and more different formats coming out and being developed, and the options also to make it more interesting for the brands is growing. So that's fantastic, so that we can make it so relevant. And
across our network, we're seeing the highest quality of user coming from video. Not to say that display can't equal or even top that from an efficiency standpoint, which is really all about math. You probably back me up on this, but in what AppsFlyer presented in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress, for iOS retention, you brought up that thing earlier, you actually ranked AdColony, an Opera platform, as the highest quality partner in the industry for retention. And it's simply because video gives you 30 seconds or up to 30 seconds of take over the screen, sight, sound, motion to really explain and give show the value of your app to the user. Let them see a little bit of the interface. Let them give them time to figure out what value is this going to provide to my day and my life by having it take up storage on my phone. And by the time the user gets to that end of the video and gets to that end part that iColony delivers, that gives you the opportunity to install right there on the spot, they're just a more informed user. They know exactly what they're getting themselves into. They're not going to install just for exploratory purposes because they got enough info but not enough to really know what it is. They installed it, they opened it, they played with it, and they were like, this isn't for me, you know? They know what they're getting themselves into. Where on the flip side, display is phenomenal at driving large volume. It typically comes with lower install rates as well. So that's where the math comes in. If you're paying 2x for video, it needs to be delivering, 2x the retention and 2x the installs, where sometimes you can get by with a lower CPI on display, you have a lower conversion rate as well, but it still actually backs out mathematically to a better value than displays or than video. So it's ultimately test different units with all the different partners, test different units even with single partners, and then just allow the actual data coming in to guide their hand in optimizing for you to give you the best efficiency across all units.
I'm going to give you an amen on that. Because essentially, the dilemma that app marketers face is 95% of all apps are unused after 30 days. So the retention of that user is absolutely key. And there is nothing like video, particularly in gaming, to lead to that retention because you've experienced that look and feel, that excitement. And it's also leading to a lot of TV advertising now.
But that's one thing you can't do. One thing you can't do is just take your TV commercial, repurpose it to mobile, and run it as a TV commercial on mobile video, right? It's just not going to work.
Okay.
It's totally different. You have to.
You're gonna Pandora's box down.
If you just run your TV commercial and then at the end say, hey, and install the app. Like, the user wasn't in the mind frame of actually knowing that this is what you're pitching to them. They weren't in the mind frame of evaluating, is this app going to bring anything to my day? So you actually have to have totally different video designed for the app install experience on mobile than you would for, say, even more of a branding experience on television.
You know what's worse about this? You act as if everybody knew about this, and for us it seems so natural, right? Like, oh, that's Pandora's box, haha. But actually, there are still brands who are like, oh, okay, this is an easy way to save money. We just ask the agency, the creatives, to just cut it down a little, and then it's fine to run on mobile. Whereas that's exactly the wrong thing to do. It has to be. Everything in terms of video, everything is still moving, but it might not have any sound, It should definitely, if you can, be vertical, not horizontal. It's much shorter. The attention span is so much shorter that actually you need to get your message across in the first, let's debate it, 3 to 6 seconds, whatever it is. It's so much. There are so many different things.
Yeah, in an in-feed environment, especially, typically storytelling starts off slow and then leads up to the explosion. In an in-feed environment, start with the explosion. The first 2 or 3 seconds needs to win them over and win their loyalty to give you the next 2 or 3 seconds to keep watching. So it's a little bit of a different tactic that you have to employ when you're doing it on a mobile phone and people's attention spans a bit shorter because you're used to everything being so fast and thumb swipes are pretty quick.
So you had mentioned TV, Machine Zone. How many people have seen app advertisement on TV? You must have seen, right? Machine Zone, solid gaming. Most of it gaming centric, right? What makes me get to that point? Why have I given up on other channels, or am I getting a new audience by doing this? Why would I do TV?
Sorry.
It's so expensive. I can
tell
Arnold
you.
Schwarzenegger's on these. Come on, they're like little mini films.
So when I moved to Germany and I switched on German TV after being abroad for 10 years, I was like, holy shit, there's a lot of apps that nobody has ever heard about that are being advertised on TV. How can that be? How did these little startups find the money? But then I was introduced to the concept of airtime for equity. So that's a whole new, in Germany I'm not too clued up yet in terms of in the US whether that's a big thing, but the TV channels have incubators and so on where they actually fund startups and fund in terms of giving them some time on their channel in return for equity.
And if you watch it closely, Arnold now with Mobile Strike and Kate Upton, before him, the TV commercial is a lot more about Kate Upton. And the TV commercial is a lot more about Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a lot more of the live actor, where when you see that same ad displayed within a game, say on mobile, it's their voice and cutouts or cut-ins of them, but it's a lot more of the actual gameplay. And so it's a different strategy. One's more about bringing awareness to the game, while the other one's actually about driving the acquisition of the user for the game.
And just, we actually measure that as well. So essentially, in the world of attribution, we talk about non-organic installs, which generally come from paid advertising, and organic installs. The reality is there are no organic installs. Something led to that install. It's just we don't have a trackable link in it necessarily that allows us to take it out of the organic bucket. So in the case of TV attribution, we know when that spot airs, and we know that I think YY, who are one of the vendors who provide tracking of TV commercials, say that 70% of all app installs come within the first 3 minutes after the airing of the ad. So you can isolate that time period and you can see what the effect is.
I mean, we see it from our end as well. So when Machine Zone went live with their TV ad, or with the M-commerce app went live with their TV ad, we see it like in terms of organic spends, and unfortunately out of overcaps, but we definitely see how the different channels have an effect on each other. So we're okay with the fact that if they want to spend on TV.
Rachel, any new ad units that have you come up? You look at the industry a lot. So what has come like in terms of ad units?
I want to see what's going to happen with iTunes. Search, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? Paid search within the App Store.
I think it's going to be massive.
Yeah, how that's going to upset the apple cart. I think that's the
But
biggest,
only-
most
but it's
interesting
gonna
thing. I mean, there's like search ads and deep linking and all
Yeah,
that.
but it's going to be, having done my own app store, and there's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that you can do is like the one that has the most money, the one that can pay for the spot, they eventually, they will own that premium position.
For small utilities and games and small social apps, I think that's going to be painful. Because like I don't know yet, and I don't know if they've really released it, but if it's search-based keyword targeting, right now with all the searchable, I don't think you can use a competitor's brand terms in your metadata in iTunes.
Not yet.
But if they open that up, then.
So and here's a plug for a good friend startup called Searchman.com. And Searchman was done by an ad mob, one of the product guys from ad mob. And he sits with 500 startups. And I saw this about 4 years ago, and all the startups that I work with, I have them take a look at it. Basically, it's a keyword optimizer. So basically, it takes a look at your description. And you could be a social networking app, and it'll look at your description, and it'll say, like, here are all the apps that you compete with based on keywords. And as you can take a look tonight or tomorrow, and if you have an app in the App Store, check it out. Because I had a friend who did a Hootsuite competitor, and he outranked Hootsuite when you searched Hootsuite. So his app ranked first, and it was a startup out of Miami. But yeah, I mean so this is going to be interesting now, because if you can own these keyword, the search terms, then
that's massive. I mean, maybe not so much for big brands, because if you're searching for the Marriott app, it's because you belong to the Marriott loyalty program, and you like to stay at Marriott hotels, and you're just going to keep looking. And if Hilton comes up first, it's not going to matter because you like Marriott. Or if you're searching for a Toyota, it's because you just bought a Toyota.
But it could be
so for the big brands, it's not going to matter, because by the time you decided to download the app, it's because you've got like this tight relationship with the brand. But for everybody else, it's going to be a challenge.
what else has come across? So we heard video. We heard mobile web is out there, native. I think search.
Search
I
and deep
think
linking.
SEO is still out there. What else in the industry that's in like the last 2 years have come across its non-traditional square, rectangular, IAB, or MMA format?
Well, I think one thing, since I'm looking at Elias right there, you know, for example, a technology where you can link to the Apple Wallet, so that, say, a coupon or whatever, so you don't even have to go via the App Store, and it's not necessarily about the download as such, but you know, maybe you don't need the whole app for what you're actually wanting to do if you're a big retailer. And you know, sure, having the app is great, but maybe you would be happy with just distributing some awareness.
What is Elias working on?
I didn't hear.
It's a mobile wallet marketing platform called Pragmatic.
Pragmatic. All right. Cool. Send me an email list.
It's very different, you know. Like, yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely innovative
Got it.
that came to mind in terms of not a square, not something moving, not something search. What else did we cover? Not something. Sometimes there are cubes that come up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
The thing is, like,
in terms of formats.
I just have an aversion to actually non-traditional advertising is because although you can't do programmatic with it, you have to get smaller volume, smaller scale, but I'm just always curious because eventually if there's an impact to the industry, somebody.
And it's fun. That's the point.
Yeah, I can't believe we've been doing this for 15 years and still haven't figured out mobile advertising. I don't think we have yet. I don't think that. Okay. How many people in this room have clicked on a rectangular mobile ad in the last month?
Intentionally.
Intentionally. Yes. Intentionally. See. Okay. All right. So, and it's probably we're part of the industry, but maybe Oklahoma Walmart shopper. That's a little bit more than we do. Hopefully.
I was gonna say, well, ad formats and ad units are great, and different ones play, you know, a better role in certain type of acquisition or a certain type of users. It's always and kind of really still is a data play, right? I mean, that's what makes Facebook so effective. It's not their ad units. I mean, they have cookie cutter solutions pretty much for everyone. You can't really do any outside the box crazy kind of ad units with them. It's just their targeting and their data is incredible to, you know, deliver the right ad to the right user at the right time. So it's like, while ad formats and ad units are wonderful, like partnering with the right company, like you said earlier, is 90% of the game, right? Partnering with a partner that has great tech to target, great algorithms to create lookalikes, post, you know, conversions, like that's always going to win over a ad unit specific ad format. You know, it's really, I can do more across my network with, you know, a traditional banner ad than something we can do with significantly flashier, you know, better looking ads, you know, because of our data and our targeting.
And one other trend that plays really well to what you just said was the user experience. That's what it's really all about. Once you get the data and the targeting right, you've then got to give that user a seamless experience. And you've seen innovation like deferred deep linking that allows you to click on an ad that, say, has a holiday sale at Macy's, one of our clients, and if you don't have the Macy's app, which is where it wants to take you, we have an ability to create, we have a link that takes you to the, senses what device you're on, takes you to the appropriate store, installs the ad, and then brings you to that landing page for the holiday sale, even though you probably forgot why it is you originally clicked on the ad. So that kind of seamless experience makes it much better in terms of conversion overall.
Let's talk about cross-device targeting. And why is that important for an acquisition strategy? And then on who are the players there? How do I track this on the different devices?
So, I mean, I think it's important. It's an obvious question. You know, if we think of ourselves, you know, it doesn't. I don't think of, you know, the different places where I surf the web or the whatever as a device. You know, so I have my computer, I have my phone, I have my iPad at each time, whatever's closest. And I think that in order for brands to be able to get the appreciation and to be able to get the attention of the user, having that sophistication helps. Like for me, for example, the first time I clicked and actually converted on an ad was when I came to the States. I was on Amazon. And I was searching for something. I was in the middle of work. I didn't pay, and I really didn't need it, so I forgot about it. And later that evening, I was on Facebook, and all of a sudden it showed up, and I was like, and I bought it. And I think that's a really good example of being able to track me and what I'm doing, and just remind me, hey, you were interested in this, don't forget to buy it. And I think that we see it as well with clients that we're working with together with Fetch, like Expedia, for example. Like they don't mind where they catch the user. They just want to make sure that their message is concise. And so I think that this is definitely a challenge, and I think the attribution around it is going to continue to be a challenge. That's going to be the next boom in the industry. Obviously, Facebook and Google are dominating the space right now. And I think that to be able to work with them. So, for example, we do a lot of cross-channel, obviously not from Facebook to off of Facebook because we don't want to piss them off. But so we take a lot of the information that we have from the non-social channels and we'll take that onto Facebook and build a lookalike model on that. So it's not perfect, but it's the closest that we're able to get to it now. And I think that that's definitely a trend that's it's going to change the way the brand spend. So if you talked about smart spending, it's going to take it up a few notches once we're able to really follow the user throughout.
Something the story she just told kind of coincides with, something you brought up earlier, which is the multi-touch attribution that you guys are trying to go to, because that kind of brings back the example I made earlier full circle in that, you said you were, on the web at work, going about your day, doing what you're doing, you saw an Amazon ad, you clicked it, it drove you to Amazon. You just didn't complete the purchase there, right? But that's what got you there, that's what got you interested in the product, service, whatever it was. You didn't, maybe for time constraints, whatever it is, convert at that point in time, but then the next day when you were on Facebook, the same product that you saw was right back there in front of your face, and you're like, oh, hey, I was interested in this, you went back, you bought it. In our current setup with the industry, Last Touch gives 100% of that attribution credit to Facebook. Were they the one who actually played a larger role in that acquisition, or was it the vendor who served you that prospecting ad earlier the day before that actually drove your interest, drove you to the site, got you to spend time and interact with that brand? So the sooner we can move away from Last Touch, I know the industry has been founded on it. It's like a best of the worst solutions because we don't have a better one right now, but like once we have, better solutions in place, I think it's really going to kind of make the entire ecosystem better for brands and advertisers everywhere.
Yeah, we'll just have like some artificial intelligence thing, and the devices can fingerprint your eyeball tracking, and then eventually that'll lead up into.
I shouldn't talk crap about it if I don't have the solution. I don't. But
it's gonna end up looking like something like that. It's gonna be.
But even there's third parties out there like Visual IQ and there's a couple others that I don't have a ton of experience working with them. They haven't really been heavily adopted across the industry yet. But I admire what they put out there as their product, which is saying that we can measure every ad delivered to a user throughout their entire experience, know which ones were viewable, weren't viewable, know which ones were clicked, weren't clicked, and assign, conversion credit to the ones that they feel played a higher role in the life cycle, of the attribution of that user as opposed to just the last touch. Because you can gain last touch. A lot of vendors out there make very good livings gaming last touch. You can't game, actual engagement.
How you guys doing out there? Are you guys hanging in there? A couple more questions? All right. So good. How's the panel doing? Good. You guys hanging in there? Oh, wow. I did not plan her.
No, I don't really do that.
That's an obvious question.
Yeah, okay. Ad blockers, thoughts?
Thoughts?
Okay, I want to do a survey because we talked about this. We should talk about ad blocking, and it'll be controversial. How many people here actually have an ad blocker installed? And I said 5. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any ad blockers over here? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Jeez, okay. I thought, there's only 5 people in there that have ad blockers. How many people here on the panel have ad blockers?
I'm sure you probably all tested
You
them
all
all.
tested them up, yeah. You have to see I have one that doesn't really work though. But, okay, so interesting. All right, so thoughts, ad blockers. Are there really going to be an impact to our our business?
First of all, I looked at some numbers, which, I mean, okay, there are a lot of people here now in the room, but actually the numbers, and they were fairly recent, from 8 months ago. It's 419 million in the world that are in active use, apparently. But when you look at the breakdown of countries, 40% of that is in China and 30% is in India. And I was like, wow, that explains a lot. Because I was living in Beijing for a year, 3 years ago, and there's a lot of spam, like just spam. When we talk about the aim of making the ad look nice and look appealing and look relevant, it doesn't apply to current state in China. I mean, it's just, there is so much, no wonder. I mean, I just looked at the number and
It's that noise.
exactly,
so
it's just
loud.
noise and it's just distracting and it's all there. And so I'm actually not surprised at all that the largest number is over there. Of course, we will have to see over here what happens. I mean, at the moment I still think, I think it's still mostly mobile web. I know there are some that are now getting better with also in-app and so on, but really I don't think it will affect the good ads, or when ads get so good that the people feel, that the users feel it's relevant to them, which is clearly what the aim is, then I'm not so worried at all.
And well, hopefully it will lead to more good ads.
Exactly.
I think it's a warning signal to, you know, to do better. But the a big part of ad blocking is not just the obtrusiveness of the ads, but it's also the sucking of the data. And as we try to go more and more towards efficiency and targeting and putting the right ad in front of the right user, that involves more data, more scripts. And more scripts slow down the page and suck up more data. So it's this terrible catch-22. The more accurate we try to and targeted we try to make the ads, the heavier the ads become. But hopefully it will lead towards better ads overall.
Yeah, I think also there's some kind of symbiotic relationship. I mean, there's, it's true that the ads can be annoying. On the other hand, there's a whole world of content out there that's free. And so if we look at the ad blocking, for example, in mobile, it's a much hotter topic because it's something new and there hasn't been a controversy. Yeah, or now there's a few, so they're okay. But I don't think that it's going to be something that's going to affect the mobile space, because at the end as well, the publishers are also the advertisers. The ecosystem is becoming much tighter. And like you said, if the ads aren't relevant, if the ads don't make sense, or if the ad hurts the content from being consumed, then everybody has a point of interest to make sure that the ad is correct and making sure that where the ad is displayed and how it's displayed is correct. So it's kind of the relationship on both sides. I don't think it's going to be so dramatic.
I think it's very much self-inflicted by the industry, to be honest. I think there was so much ugly stuff out there that was so annoying that no wonder people decided actually I don't want any of this. Exactly. But I almost feel that's kind of how desktop also started. I mean, when I think about the ads, a long time ago, they were so much more annoying because everybody was like, ooh, they can move now. So everything was blinking at you and moving and so on. And the industry kind of, on most pages, also got over that. So I hope that it's going to happen.
Do you have a question?
I was going to ask, because there was a lot of conversation about good ads. What does that mean? It's a very broad statement. What is your experience in terms of what are the best ads you've ever seen? Give us specific comments.
Well, we make ads, so I would say they are all designed with a mobile-first approach, right? So they are designed for a small screen. They are not very heavy, like Rachel just said. They are definitely even if they're not called native, they are relevant to the platform. So we mentioned Facebook earlier, you know, you scroll through your timeline on Facebook. So you want the video to be very quick and grip your attention. Or I mentioned Snapchat earlier. A Snapchat video can live on no other platform than on Snapchat, because you will see it's a Snapchat video. It must look like a Snapchat video, otherwise it doesn't belong there. And video, I mean ad, of course. Or if you go and if you look at I don't know, a different, so it's very relevant to wherever you're looking at what you're currently doing, how you're currently behaving. It's very relevant to that moment.
And content-wise as well.
Yeah,
I think
content.
we're talking about two different things, because let's say I'm a publisher and I don't have any control over, I'm not marketing my site, for example, right now. I'm talking about like running ads from advertisers on our site. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like NBC, you know, their clients like take the whole list, like who's the best, which of your clients is the best mobile ads?
Oh, I'll give you a favorite recent example, and I'll tee it up by saying that I think, just personal observation as an end user, I think a good ad has something in it for me. There's some kind of value exchange. So I'm giving you're getting my data, you're getting my time, you're getting my attention, you're holding me up from whatever I want to do, so there should be something in it for me. And it could be a diversion, it could be a coupon, it could be a utility or useful, whatever, but like there has to be some sort of value. So a favorite example of mine is our clients at KFC were introducing dessert. And you don't think of dessert when you think of KFC. They're introducing this new red velvet cake. And so KFC's basically, they're trying to reach two distinct groups, college-age males and household decision-making suburban moms like me. They want me to get KFC instead of getting pizza for dinner. And so, of course, moms love Candy Crush, right? So we created an ad unit called Cake Crush that mimicked the Candy Crush experience, where instead of crushing the candies, we crushed cake and buckets of chicken and stuff. And the engagement that we saw, and we targeted we targeted moms at a certain locations, at certain times of day where they had a few minutes to kill. So in that time when you're doing the school pickup, or all these little moments that we determined would be times where you might need diversion, and we gave them diversion. And that to me is a great example of creating value exchange in the moment. And again, value exchange is it's not monetary value exchange. It could be fun, it could be useful info, it could be directions, but give me something.
So it's like, that's the relevance you're talking about, okay?
Yeah, I think Lily was talking too about creating ads that feel like an organic fit.
Yeah,
Because it's really terrible when you go to a publisher and then there's an ad that just does not belong there. And you might not be able to put your finger on it, but you might be on, a site that's kind of.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you know what I'm saying. Like it should fit the medium. Ideally, should fit the publisher, but with programmatic, that's not always possible. I think that's where you see the most egregious juxtaposition of, a bad user experience in the ad for the publisher, or just really bad adjacency.
There's some questions in the audience. Let's start with Andrew. Go ahead.
All right. So in the DMP space, we've seen companies like Crux facilitate peer-to-peer data sharing. I was just wondering if you guys see this as the next frontier. Like Rachel, do you see this in your media campaigns? Do you plan against second-party data and find other brands to take their second-party data and share it? Jim, do you see that in your attribution that a lot more advertisers are using second-party data relationships to reach people with third-party data?
Do you mean like complementary brands, like brand dating?
For instance,
Like if I'm Gap, then I'm going to get data from Babies R Us,
or my
or
data to company X if they also give me their data, or you can use.
yeah, not as much that. Obviously lots of third-party data, tons of it, but less of that. I think that's really interesting, and I'd like to see more of it. Exchanging data with. I saw someone. I think it was someone from. Was it Birchbox? No, so a woman from Gap presented at the MMA, at the Mobile Media Summit in Miami last fall, and she talked about this concept of brand dating. She talked about how Birchbox and Gap and Baby Gap got together and targeted expectant mothers with all kinds of cool stuff for moms, and That was the first time I really started hearing brands talk about that.
Not relying on third-party data as much.
Yeah.
Another one.
So my wife was a victim of that, by the way. We get this.
Oh, she did?
We
She
get
got
this
the-
junk box every month for the baby.
Did she get the special onesie?
Yeah.
It was very
She
cool.
did.
I thought it was a
And
great
it was,
example.
yeah, very powerful, and I think my mother-in-law calls it a hoarder's box. But anyway.
Guilty pleasure.
So, over here.
So I have a platform that's on iOS. It's an app. When I release on Android, are there any things to keep in mind as far as Android versus iOS?
It's a loaded question. Yes.
Okay.
There is a different, they say that, you know, it's a higher affluent user. Typically on the iOS side, the iOS users tend to spend more money, host install of apps and just across the web, the mobile ecosystem in general. Android users are in greater number, so you can usually acquire them at lower rates, but then they also tend to spend less within the app and stuff like that. So usually an app developer values iOS users at a different clip than what they value Android users, but they absolutely both play a role in the scheme of things. You just gotta know like where, when, why, and how to go after one versus to go after the other with your marketing, with your dollars, with how much you're paying to acquire each one. So there's a lot going on.
Sure.
Guys.
Yeah, that's just the top tip of the iceberg. I
Yeah.
feel like there's so much
Yeah.
more. I would say it's definitely easier going that way than the other way. Usually, Android is maybe easier to launch, but then you have so many restrictions and rules
Sure.
and so on that are put on by Apple. And then, I mean, the split and so on, that differs widely by country. I mean, I can't believe how many iPhones there are over here. That's definitely not the case. I mean, if you go to China, it's pure Android because iOS is so expensive, and even in Germany, it's, for example, to give you two, it's much more Android than iOS. I've never seen so many iPhones than in New York here in one place.
So also, if you want a really deep dive on that, we published 3 different studies on acquisition, retention, and monetizing of the different platforms. But it's a deep dive down by vertical as well. So for instance, the utility apps on Android are much bigger because you don't really need them as many on an iPhone.
Sure.
They're all available on our website. I can send you links.
Great. Thank you.
Question for you.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the discussion. It's been really, really good. The level of sophistication has been very high. My company does designs for applications that is used in Europe. So have you been seeing this new kind of app blocking coming up? It's called the regulator. Maybe your clients have been thinking about that. The EU is now really much like regulating the use of data in marketing, in serving customers. Have you seen this kind of like a effect to your clients on how they try to cope with this new kind of regulation that is going? There is actually like 2 main things in the EU regulation. First one is that the user has to have a lot of transparency on what the service provider knows about you and a lot of ways to control that data. And second one is the liabilities of misuse of data are getting like really high. So any comments on these kind of things from here?
To be honest, I'm a little far removed. All I know is what happened with Mobi and
Yeah.
what's going on there.
Is
But,
that already policy in the EU? Or
Well,
is
it's this spring's topic in the Commission right now.
which country brought that to the?
It's run by a German commissar.
Well, actually, I was afraid of it.
But
You know why I'm here, right?
But it actually affects, it affects like Facebook's and Google's very, very heavily on their things, and it's like German market is fairly big, and this new regulation will define the way we use the data for serving our customers.
Yeah, well, I can't speak to that. It goes back kind of to her question. It's like, what's a good ad though? It's like users are, installing these ad blockers because, and everyone's so protective of like, I don't want you to know who I am and have my data, but like, that's how the ad system, the ecosystem is going to get better. The more we know about you, the better and more relevant ads we can serve to who you are and the kind of things you like and your affinities. Like, so it's almost like a full circle thing where it's like, you don't want to give up any of your data and who you are as a user, myself included. Like, I don't really want you to know too much about me and my advice. But the more you know about me, the more relevant ads you're serving me, that's the better ad experience I'm getting, and that's less likely I am to want to have an ad blocker or something like that in place, because I'm actually getting value out of the ad. So it's just it's a give and take on the data side, to make sure you're not abusing the data, but using it to actually make the ecosystem and the experience better for everyone from all sides.
I wonder how much of people being afraid of their data being used is kind of, not an old wives' tale, but just becoming less of a concern. There are all sorts of studies out there that say from millennials on down, they're far more open to the idea of data as currency and of, I'll give you a little something, you give me a little something. I think as people are increasingly aware that they produce data and they're a little more in control of it, they're more and more willing to actually have it be used to create a better experience.
My wife didn't install an ad blocker until she started asking me questions about what kind of data we can use to target her. And she was like, oh, okay.
If they only knew.
Right.
Question over here.
Yeah, so I wanted to know your thoughts about augmented reality. Obviously, it's been a big thing this week, especially Pokemon Go. So just wondering what you guys thought of it, if there were really any advertising capabilities for it. Do you think it's like the next wave?
Yeah, I mean, there's a cool company, Immersion. Have you guys heard of Immersion? They're West Coast company out in San Francisco doing virtual reality ad units now for the VR gamers. So you guys are into gaming.
We were actually talking about that before we sat on the panel about now take Pokemon Go, right? The opportunities that are there. If imagine you could, actually collect Pokemon only that are placed in stores, in certain stores, only by purchasing an item from the store. Or if you think, this can be, we can come up with a whole list of things that are
Pokemon in my Happy Meal.
Yeah, something like that. It's gonna open a lot of opportunity, I think.
Yeah, also keep an eye on what Flipper is doing with the visual search database that they're developing. So they're developing a database of colors and angles and imagery so that you'll actually be able to search via AR. So search via your browser, and kind of like what Goggles was supposed to be but didn't really quite come to fruition. And when you think about all the ad experiences they can layer on top of that, it gets really interesting, competitive stuff. I'm not a big believer in that anymore.
Cool.
I feel like I'm the only person who didn't install the Pokemon app. So
Okay, how many people installed it over the weekend? Pokemon? And there's, so if you have it tonight on your way out, just go over to the park. I was last night with 40 adults. 40 adults were out there. Oh, I got this one. Oh, I got that one.
It's actually the first time I ever downloaded a game. I had to understand what it is, and it's pretty cool, but I just don't have time for it.
Well, no, it's like I was in, how many people in the Shake Shack over here? It's like 40 minutes on the weekend. So I was like, I'll just download to go. And there were tons, and I started walking, and they were all looking at their phones. I'm like, oh my God, they're playing too. So anyway, kind of fun. One more last question, folks? Okay.
Can you talk a bit about the future of ads in messaging and smart text messages like Superphone? How are they going to engage?
I don't know Superphone.
Yeah, why don't you take the microphone and tell us what that is?
What is Superphone?
Superphone, it's Ryan Leslie, so he's a rap artist, influencer. He actually spoke at a mobile growth event right where you were here. He sold $2 million in his song by smart text messaging app on his phone.
Did he have was it like a sticker? Was it like
No, on his Twitter.
emoticon?
He has millions of followers on his Twitter, and it's his phone number, his cover image.
Yeah.
So all his fans text him, and the phone starts figuring out who spends the most on his songs based on when they text him. So he sold $2 million.
to give him the phone and then he send you the ads based on.
That sounds very much like a bot to me, almost.
He spoke at North. Northside Festival?
We'll come all next time and listen to it. I mean, it sounds almost like a bot, right? Where you trigger a message by sending something. I mean, again, sorry, but my favorite example in China, on WeChat, for example, I mean, they had that since ages. You say we were right now in fast food, so say Burger King or McDonald's, you can just send maybe like menu, you just send the word menu, and then you get immediately in response as a text message, or there it's like a text message, within WeChat, the whole menu of the store or the outlet that is closest to you. You get it right there as a response, and so on. So this bot mechanic is the next, also one of the things that will be seen more and more.
Brands will have an AI presence on the different messaging communities, right?
That's
Yeah,
already
or
a big
Facebook.
conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had conversations about that with every single client we have. Where should they, conversational commerce and CRM, where should they be creating presences? What conversations do they need to insert themselves into? Where do they need to create new conversations? Like, do you have to be on Facebook Messenger? Do you have to be on Facebook Messenger and also WhatsApp? Well, it depends. Should you also be on Kik? Exactly. Snapchat? So it varies from market to market. But I think it's really interesting. There's so many new things that are coming, that are surfacing in that ecosystem, like emojis. Now emojis are a type of ad. Chatbot brand experiences, because not all the chatbots are commerce. Some of them are brand awareness. Like, I think the first one that Facebook did was the Miss Piggy bot. Did you see that one for Jim Henson Studios, where you could chat with Miss Piggy? That's another form of paid media. So I think it's really fertile ground for all sorts of new and interesting things.
So I should just add, we can put a trackable link in any of this. So, I mean, bottom line, you go to the dashboard, whether or not it's that new ad unit, whether or not it's a bot, you can compare it, directly in terms of what kind of user you're getting, the loyalty, the ROI, etc.
Tested and verified.
I'll go right back to choose the right partners, innovate, and define and conquer on KPIs.
Well, with that bombshell, I guess we'll wrap up tonight. Panelists, thank you so much for your time. You guys have been awesome, wonderful. I think 3 times of you showed up that I was expecting. Thanks for all of you for coming. I hope to see you guys in the fall soon, and maybe we'll be here again. And we have about 40 minutes left, so feel free to hang out, make yourself whatever's left. Thank you guys.